But I want to just introduce a few of the staff that are here this evening. Joe Burnett, Condor Program Manager, Darren Gross. We also have Stephanie Herrera. I'm not sure if you can see her or not, and Kathy Hamilton. So once again, thank you all for being here, and let me turn it over to Joe Burnett.
Thanks, Kelly. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have a lot to update you on. The feedback and the outpouring of support has been incredible. Myself and the field crew, we have been really busy, as you can imagine, trying to keep up with everything that's happened. This last month has been a roller coaster ride. And before I get started, I definitely want to recognize the crew. Stephanie, who Kelly just mentioned, and Evan McWreath, who's, I don't know if he's going to make it tonight onto the call. And also we have 2 new interns that just started on the project, a crazy time to start on a project, Jonathan and Moed. So we're going full steam ahead. You know, we can't slow down. We got to keep going. And we're just excited to rebuild and, you know, just try to stay as positive as we can. And yeah, I've put together an update for everyone tonight, just to make it a little easier to follow along. And I'm going to share my screen here. So bear with me. I'll start the slideshow. So everyone sees this. Can everyone see the first slide? Awesome.
Yes.
All right. So just an overview, the Dolan Fire timeline and the status of the Condors. You know, this is probably the biggest inquiry we get. So obviously, just for those of you who don't know, the fire started.
You muted yourself.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Joe.
Oops, how'd that happen? Can everyone hear me? Sorry, I don't know.
Now we can.
How long have I been talking?
With the fire
about
started.
40 seconds.
Okay.
You ended with the fire started.
Oh, sorry. So I'll start over. So yeah, everyone, just to catch up the Dolan Fire timeline, I just want to give an overview. The fire started on August 18th, about a few miles south of the Condor Sanctuary. The fire quickly moved north, and it burned through the Condor Sanctuary and the area where we have 3 nests located between August 20th and August 21st. During the fire, we lost our Condor release pen. We lost our research facility. They were both destroyed completely, unfortunately. And we had 9 Condors go missing right after the fire. And unfortunately, we have not found those birds yet. And it's appearing more likely that they could have been lost. Not to say we are stopping the search effort. We will continue to look probably for at least months ahead, just in the off chance some of these birds did survive. But based on the fire behavior and what we saw there and the activity before the fire hit, how many condors were around, we do feel like we may have lost those birds. And then we've confirmed we lost 2 chicks and nest. So that was unfortunate. And again, the Dolan Fire is still burning, which is hard to believe. It is at 128,400 acres, and it's 46% contained. The fire has moved south. It's heading south down the Big Sur coast. Unfortunately, they're doing great work in protecting the community. They've saved a lot of homes that there's a populated area down south in the south coast of Big Sur. They were able to save a lot of homes. So kudos to the firefighters that are, putting their lives on the line every day. They estimate the containment of this fire to be mid-October, so we're not out of the clear. We feel better. It's south of us, but it's still an active fire. And again, we will still continue to search for these condors, just so everyone knows. We keep their radio signals in our scanners. We're always double checking birds we see out in the field visually to make sure they are who they are. They all have tags, so we can confirm that. I'm really excited. Next week, I'm hoping to get the Condor cams, the explore.org cams back up and running. I've been working with explore.org. Really, they've been going all above and beyond to help us get up and running again. That's a great monitoring tool, and it's also a great way for you guys to help us monitor and watch the birds. So we hope to at least get the main cam at the sanctuary going, and then right behind that, try to get the nest cam going. So let's get to the next slide. It's supposed to click, there we go. So I wanted to start with an Iniko update. As you guys heard, our last update we sent out on Facebook and social media, we were expressing some concerns with Iniko. We hadn't seen the behavior we were hoping to see. He started to appear to be a little weaker. He just wasn't himself, him or herself. Again, we still don't know the gender of Iniko. And just a little lethargic. And, you know, we watch these birds constantly, and we really notice subtle changes in behavior. And this was a little bit of a warning flare to us. So we started to crank up observations, really track and see what mom was doing, because obviously it's a single mom raising Iniko now, Redwood Queen. So this went up to the top of our priority list. So we basically had people going up every other day, checking on Iniko, seeing where mom was. We were working with Pinnacles National Park. Their Condor crew was letting us know when 190 was popping up over there. And so we kept a close tabs on it, and we started to watch more and more. And just when we thought it was looking like Iniko might be having issues, mom showed up yesterday, and we observed a feeding. And this was a really big deal. And, you know, I can tell you personally, I was very relieved. You know, this fire really jostled the flock, and I think it's hard to, especially she lost her mate.
That's good.
She lost her mate, and, you know, it looks like she's lost Kingpin. So she herself had her world rocked, and I think it just took her a little while to get back in the swing of things. You got to remember, their whole home base, home territory, the sanctuary, it looks like a different place. This isn't the place they saw before the fire. There's the places they like to perch might be gone. You know, you can imagine all their routines have just been really mixed up. Places they like to roost have been burned. So, you know, we think that it's just been a little bit of catch up for a lot of these birds to take in everything that's happened. And so we were incredibly relieved today to get a great visual. Evan was able to watch the chick and notice the chick had a huge crop. And for those you don't know, the condors store food in the crop. In the picture on the right, you can see a huge protrusion on the chest. That is the best thing we could ever see. That's a few pounds of meat inside Iniko's crop. So that lets us know he is got great nutrition coming his way. And the other great thing is his behaviors come back around. He's acting a little more like him or herself. And that's the best news we can give you right now. And yeah, we had started, you know, going down the kind of the rabbit hole, like what are we going to do if he starts to, or he or she starts to spiral and start to have real serious health issues. So we started to brainstorm ideas, but fortunately, we don't need to take that step to rescue or evacuation, although we are still brainstorming about it. If that does happen, we can be ready to respond. But I just want everyone to know that the nest site and the area around the nest site is really, really dangerous. And before I do that, I want to show you this video from today. I don't know how the video is going to look. I always try these on PowerPoint. So just watch. So this is what Evan was watching. He's like, oh my God, where's Iniko? And here he comes. He was taking a little nap. And then he gets up, and this is when Evan first spotted Iniko's big crop, big yawn. And what I like about this photo is Nico's air sacs are actually puffed out, and that's a really good sign that he's or he or she is feeling good. to be able to inflate his air sacs and show. And today Nico was moving around a lot more. You can see the crop right there in the center of the photo, which is a really great sign. And then later on, he actually had 190 come and land in the cavity at the entrance and come in and visit Nico. So looks like mom's back in the swing of things, and Nico's behavior is kind of getting back to where we want it. And yeah, we're just going to continue to closely monitor. We really want to get the cam back, so you guys can join in with us and watch Nico in these final stages of his time in the nest, because she is very close to fledging. We expect Nico to fledge right at the end of October, definitely before Thanksgiving. So we're just hanging in there with Nico. And what I was talking about earlier was, when we were talking about the potential possibility of evacuation, it became daunting pretty quickly because this is the base of the nest tree. It's very precarious. I even feel nervous walking around the ground at the base of the tree. It's so fragile. So the idea of climbing it or doing any kind of helicopter operation is off the table. In terms of that is enough activity that it could blow this tree over, just get the tree moving in the wrong direction. So at this point, we're happy the tree is still standing. And the slope is so steep around this area, the picture doesn't really capture it. It would be very difficult, and it's a long hike into a very remote part of the Big Sur wilderness. So, if we did, an evacuation would be very, very difficult and ill-advised based on our knowledge. We have a whole panel of Condor folks that are expert climbers, so we have a great crew of folks we tap for that resource, and they were not very excited about the possibility of even trying an evacuation at this. So just so everyone knows, we're giving it our greatest effort. If we had to, we would have, but you have to put human safety at the top. We've already had such a tough last month with losing all these birds, that's definitely paramount. So moving on, we made it back up to the sanctuary to get further into the sanctuary, and this is what we found. This is a tree log jam that's in our road. This is our access road to the Condor Sanctuary, and we're basically tunneling through these log jams. There's a lot of work to be done up at the sanctuary, and this is just the tip of the iceberg right here. But we've been up there. We've been able to assess all the major damage. So our water system was completely wiped out. Obviously, the research facility, the release pen, all kind of infrastructure is gone. So it's really a complete rebuild. And then on top of that, before we can even start rebuilding, we got to be able to get in. So there's a lot of road work. There's a ton of, we're going to need some professionals to come in and clear this road. There's a lot of dangerous log jams. And so we got our work cut out for us. So to hear that the outpouring of support is really lifting the spirits of the crew. Just so you guys know, just to know we have this kind of support coming in is just really gotten us through every day. It's pretty awesome. And some of the questions that we got ahead of time were about the sanctuary, about how the birds are doing, how are we helping the birds. So when we went up to the site, anytime we go up, we're supplemental feeding the birds, which is something we do for pre-release birds right after they get released. But right now, because of the fire, we're putting out a little extra food. And then our water supply has been wiped out. So we're manually bringing up water and filling up this natural pool that's right near where the condors feed. You guys have seen it on the Condor cam. So we're manually filling that. So it's a little extra work, but it's the least. Those are the little things we can do to help this flock that's kind of been turned on its head, and help them kind of get reestablished and get settled back into the canyon. Who would have known? This is a tree on the right here. We went up last week, and the fire is still. There's areas that are still burning. So it's pretty amazing to see. Weeks after this fire burned through, there's still fuels up there and tree stumps and stuff burning. So it's still dangerous up there. We're being as careful as we can. So we're proceeding cautiously and slowly with this, and we honestly, when the first rain comes, we'll feel really safe because that will put everything out. And hopefully that's sooner than later. Another update, everyone has been asking about our other nest down that we're pretty sure that chick survived based on the behavior of mom. This is 550. She wears a GPS tag, and that tag has told us pretty confidently that she is going back to her nest tree routinely to feed her chick. And the her mate 652, they're just rotating around. So it's been really awesome to see some bright spots. And so everyone knows we still have 5 nests going in Central California. So it's still, you know, despite the fire, we still have 5 nests that are thriving. That includes Iniko, that includes 550's nest, and the nest over at Pinnacles. So we have probably 3 nests inland in and around Pinnacles. So it's still encouraging that we have really good production, and that's a sign of a really you know, that the flock is able, despite the fire, is able to sustain themselves in a way. They're still going to be able to produce 5 chicks this year. That's pretty exciting. And this is just another shot that to finish up on the sanctuary that, and Kelly alluded to it. We're fortunate that we have another release site in San Simeon, and that is going to really save us right now, because we had 9 birds transferred up last week. And this is a big shout out to Pinnacles National Park and San Diego Wild Animal Park, who worked together to help us. And San Diego Wild Animal Park worked with Pinnacles and sent those pre-release birds up to the Pinnacles release pen. And in a couple weeks, we're going to grab 7 of those birds and move them down to the San Simeon release site and release them down there, hopefully in early November. So again, while we've had our fire setback, we are still pushing forward. We're still going to be able to maintain and release birds this year. Try to get the flock, that whole rebuild momentum. Try to get the momentum back that we had, and you start that with releasing birds. And we're going to get some work done next week up at the San Simeon release pen, and we're expanding it a little bit because of what happened with the fire, to make it a little more. To help us trap and not only release. So it's kind of just a kind of impromptu change we're making, but we're really excited about the San Simeon site. It's going to be our go-to spot for now. And obviously the Big Sur rebuild, you know, is definitely, you know, talking maybe at least a couple of years to get that back up and running. But in the interim, we're relieved that we have San Simeon. And to end on a really bright note, oh, and here's just a shot of us. This is how we're doing things these days. The old-fashioned way, just carrying water down and filling up the pool. And it's pretty cool. You can actually see behind me up on the slope there, the fires, there's still areas that are still burning. Again, they're kind of contained. They're just areas that are still kind of hot. And so we usually do our trips pretty quick. We get in and out of there. Yeah, the water's definitely been a nice thing to add. You know, we know the birds on their own can find water. There's tons of water around Big Sur. There's springs and rivers, and we know the birds can do it. But this is just a nice thing we can do to help some of the younger birds out that aren't quite as savvy as the older guys. So yeah, this, and then we're also putting out food for them. So that's actually a good thing. And this is the bright spot. You know, here we have all this devastation and you know, potentially some major loss of condor life, but you know, there's nothing that captures it. Like, we looked down at the ground and we saw this little fern coming up out of the ashes, you know, and I think it was symbolic of everything that's happened. And I think it's just, for us, it's emotional because, you know, when you get knocked down like that, you really don't know if you can get back up. So we can't thank you guys. Yeah, I always get emotional. Sorry. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. And I think it's going to go a long way. And, you know, if you only knew how it was picking us up as a crew. So without further ado, you know, I can't thank everyone enough. And I'm going to bring in Darren here to help me with some questions. Let me get going here. I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to go put it back on a nice picture. So Darren, you want to start with some, I think I was hoping I was going to hit a lot because we got a lot of questions. So thank you so much for all the questions. Anytime you guys send these in, it's really a great insight for us to, to understand what people want to know about. And, because sometimes we get caught up so much in what's going on that we forget, oh yeah, people don't know the details. So the questions are awesome. And I hope I hit some of these, but Darren, you got some there that.
Yeah, I'm kind of jumping around here, but let me see. Sorry, just trying to find one of the ones I've been looking at. I've seen some questions along the lines of like, just, why can it be harder for condors to escape the fire, like at night or just in general? And I mean, it can really depend on just the conditions that they're in when the fire burns through. I mean, the situation we had here with the Dolan Fire is, it did come through at night, so a lot of the birds were roosting. And if they're in a place where it's just hard for them to get out of, or if they're sitting there long enough and there's a lot of smoke, it's dark, it's really hard for them to navigate. It can just be hard for them to escape. So they're pretty, they've been adapting to wildfire really since they've been moved into California. So for hundreds of years, but just the fires we're seeing now are just things they're not used to at all. So it's just a much tougher situation for them to navigate.
Yeah, and to piggyback Darren, we took a closer look at the data. Obviously, everyone saw how many birds were perched in the sanctuary and stayed the night the fire burned through, which we estimated there were over 20 birds actually in the canyon that night, and that it could have been a lot worse. It's really unfortunate. It looks like we lost 9, but based on the data we looked at, we could have lost over 20 birds. So it was a situation, we think, where depending on where exactly you were perched in the sanctuary, the fire varied greatly from one spot to the next and how intense it burned. So it could have just been that variation, and some birds just didn't have the opportunity to escape like others did because of just where they happened to be was a more intense area of the fire, more fuel. So there was a lot of randomness, but when we looked at it, it was very eye-opening to us that we kind of felt like we did dodge a bullet in terms of we could have lost a lot more, we believe. So there's a silver lining that, that's the best I can come up with. Yeah, we got asked, after a fire of this magnitude, how long will it take, BWS to rebuild the sanctuary again? We're looking at probably at least a couple years to rebuild based on just getting everything permitted and getting all the equipment up there. It's pretty remote, and it's definitely going to be, we got to get a lot of things lined up. You got one, Darren?
Yeah. So considering Redwood Queen's history and that her social position greatly improved after pairing with Kingpin, is her status in the group likely to be affected by Kingpin's absence? Nico, if he or she will survive. So it will kind of remain to be seen. 190 was a very dominant bird. If she could pair up with another dominant male again, and her status wouldn't be that affected, but it will probably be affected at least to some degree, even if it's just minimal. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that status is based on who these birds pair with. So we'll see. And then in terms of Iniko, I mean, it will affect Iniko's status in the flock as well, but Iniko will still be taken care of by 190. When she fledges and throughout the next year.
Nice. Here's a good question. Do you suspect Iniko has smoke inhalation or damage to the lungs? It's certainly possible. Birds are very sensitive. In comparison to our lungs, their air sacs are incredibly sensitive to fire. That's across the whole bird world. So we do suspect that Iniko definitely was impacted by the smoke. To what level, we don't know. Hopefully, obviously it's looking like he did get impacted, and maybe Iniko's starting to recover from that, which would be expected. And the exact level of damage we won't know. Just condors are incredibly tough birds. We know that just in general from other stuff we've seen, just how resilient they are. So I think, they get a lot of curveballs thrown them out in the wild. I mean, these are wild birds, so nature built them tough. So it's really encouraging to see a Nico make the turn. So we're just going to continue to watch closely, obviously.
Here's another question. Do you think if the condors tried to save themselves, which way would they have gone and how far? Perhaps like hundreds of miles east. I think what we've seen is that it seems like a lot of the birds are going to other known locations for them that have resources. So a lot of birds that we typically see in Big Sur or San Simeon that we're close to or caught in the fire, we've seen over more at Pinnacles in the past few weeks, loading up on food and water over there. So I don't know. It's hard to say if they would have gone somewhere completely new, but it does seem, at least from our observations with this fire, that they're going to places where they know they can get resources.
Yeah, we got another question about 1033, the bird we evacuated from the cliff nest site a few weeks ago. That bird is doing really well, and they have it actually in a pen at LA Zoo where that chick can actually look out into a flight pen and see other condors. And the minute that 1033 could see other condors, her behavior just skyrocketed. She completely changed. Her just became very active, very excited. She was almost a little depressed. And then they put her out in front of some other birds, and she's just won't take her face away from the little opening. And when she's big enough, they'll let her out into the population of the birds out in the main flight pen. So that was really exciting to hear. She's feeding really well. She had an elevated lead level, and that's actually initially went up when she was in captivity, but it's now starting to come down. So that was a little concerning, but it's encouraging to see it coming down. And she's definitely, she'll be on track to get released either here at Big Sur or Pinnacles this time next year. So we're pretty excited.
So is she being fostered?
So we have another question here, just asking about how Pasquale's doing and if he has been sighted. And yeah, actually, just this past week when I was up there with Evan at a release site to assess some things, we saw Pasquale flying around up there. So looks like he's doing well. There is food around, so it looks like he'll be getting into that. But yeah, he was looking good.
Yeah, a lot of these I'm seeing is baby and Nico eating. Yes, that's the best update we have today, obviously. And
hey Joe, there's a question that came over the chat that's wondering how you're getting the videos and the pictures of Iniko now without the cameras up.
Without the footage that Evan was able to get. Yeah, so what we have before the nest cam, we had to do it the old-fashioned way and go out there with a spotting scope to a nest OP, we call it, an observation point, which is hidden behind some trees, and we look through the trees and watch the nest ideally without them knowing we're there. And so we have a spot that we've always used where we sit with the scope. So we have an adapter that we can hook our iPhones to that we can actually film through these high-powered scopes that footage. So all that footage today was taken with a really nice scope with just a simple iPhone attached to the eyepiece. And we get those incredible images like Evan got today. And that's how we're monitoring right now. And that's why we're excited to get the nest cam back. And it's looking really good for early next week that I'm hoping we have that up and running again. Stuff is literally getting shipped to me right now from explore.org. And we hope to have definitely the slope cam going. And then, if everything works out technically, that we get the link down to the nest site. And that'd be really exciting because that's going to help us immensely, just being able to because when you watch in person, through at these observation points, you miss a lot more than you do. The camera doesn't miss much, obviously. So that's why we're excited to have the cam as a backup we'll still check in person, but it's nice to have the cam on the days where we can't make it up there. And obviously Explore back records it, and it's pretty handy.
And one question that goes hand in hand with that is it going to be safe to climb up to get the camera working again? Or will you need to climb?
No, well, the camera we're going to use is going to be outside the nest. And the original plan was this time when Nico turned 4.5, 5 months, we were going to switch the camera view to the outside, because at this age, they start to spend most of their time at the entrance of the nest. And with the camera inside, all you do is end up staring at their back the whole time. So we were going to move the cam originally out with the view that you saw that Evan, basically the same view that Evan had today in the video. So that's the plan, is to get, I'll show you that. I'm trying to go back here. Yeah, to get this view from the outside, which would be really handy for us as well. And that's going to be, that'll basically allow us to watch him fledge. Her fledge. I always keep saying him or her. One of these days we'll figure out what his gender is. Any other questions, Kathy, on the comment?
Someone was asking if any of the missing birds have GPS tags on them.
Yes. Darren, it was 4, right?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4. So that's some of the data we looked at, and we had data from GPS birds that survived that were perched near those GPS birds that didn't, that we think didn't survive, that are still missing. And all the data indicated their last GPS locations were at the sanctuary, literally right up until the fire hit. So we assume the fact that they stopped transmitting right around when the fire burned through, that's, if they did perish, that was probably when it happened. And then the birds that survived with GPS, their GPS locations kept collecting, yet they were still in the sanctuary. So I think it was back to what I was talking about earlier. We think it was a matter of some birds just picked the right place to perch that night and some didn't. It's really a luck of the draw. And fire behavior is really erratic, as you guys saw on the cam that night, and we saw it after we went up there. There were areas that were charred with nothing left. And then right next to it, there'd be a patch of trees, perfectly green, untouched. So the fire burns in a mosaic. And I think that's, at the end of the day, I think that maybe saved some condor, that it could have been way worse if it had just burned the entire place down, So, and that's generally, I think wildfires do that. They have that mosaic type pattern when they burn. They leave islands of areas untouched. So I think that's what maybe saved a lot of birds. Yeah, go ahead. Darren, you got any more?
Yeah. Just a question that's more about like the evolution of condors. Asking for them being so social, and also sort of the coevolution between redwoods and condors. And this person asked, does social help them find food, or with sharing food and help their survival in that way? And it certainly seems to be the case that because they're so social, it actually helps all of them together find food and survive. Because a lot of them adapted to eating things like some of the extinct megafauna species. So when one of those dies, and with the birds being social, they're all able to sort of attract to each other to those food sources. And then they also asked how important redwoods are as nesting sites to fire-prone ecosystems. And yeah, the redwoods are extremely important because they're so fire resistant. Another nest that Joe had mentioned before, and the chick at 550 that's another redwood nest that survived the fire, and that tree is massive that nest is in. We definitely think that had something to do with that chick being able to survive the fire burning through.
Yeah, it is. That tree was substantial. This redwood is just a little bit lower And then the one that where one of the chicks was lost, those two nests where the chicks were lost, the cavities, they were up near closer to the ridge top, and we think that had something to do with it. Maybe why those chicks were lost is just that tree aspect being, and again, the randomness of the fire. It's just, the fire is pretty erratic, whether winds hit it at certain times. We see that loud and clear on this fire. There's just certain areas that burned hotter than others. And unfortunately, it just, if the condors were in the path, it was, definitely probably wasn't a good thing. Some questions about pinnacles, so while we're dealing with this, pinnacles has been a huge help. Obviously the flocks mix, and we have a lot of our birds that go over there, and they've been doing a lot on their side with monitoring to help us. We can't thank them enough. Again, LA Zoo taking 1033, San Diego working with pinnacles on the transfer to ease, to take the pressure off us so we can deal with the fire. So we can't, and Fish and Wildlife Service, who oversees the Condor program, they've been an incredible resource as well. So, without our partners and all of you, you guys, obviously the care and the support, you guys care for Nico as much as we do, and, in these birds. So it's been pretty great just to see everyone come together and rally around this. Because obviously the, fire is just, they're uncontrolled, and, they cause a lot of devastation in California. And this, we feel also pretty bad for the folks that lost their homes, in the Big Sur community and other communities around California. So, it's been tough all around. But again, condors are resilient. We're resilient. You guys are resilient. We'll rebuild. We'll get back. We'll get back to where we can. And luckily, we have a lot. We have over. The population's doing really well. We've come a long way. So we're pretty excited for what's in the future. This was definitely a setback, but again, I think the momentum's turning. We're building up that momentum again. What do you think, Kathy? We got any other comments? I think we're good. Darren, are you good? I think we got I think we've answered as many questions as we can, and thanks again, everybody. We'll keep you posted on Iniko, and just we're hoping to have we'll let you know when the cams are back. That'd be big news. And then keep you posted on the pre-releases, and that's the next big project step, is getting those birds back out. So we'll have, if Pinnacles releases their birds and we release ours in San Simeon, in November we'll have 9 new birds out flying around the wild. Plus by then we'll have 5 new wild fledges. So we'll have 14 birds back out there, adding to the flock, boosting the flock and the numbers, So losing the 9, missing and potentially losing those birds and losing the other chicks, it's a setback, but I think things are looking up. And again, we're almost there to our rebuild goal. Just please, keep donating. It's really helping us, basically start to visualize what we can rebuild. It's really been huge all around. So on behalf of Ventana, of the Condor crew, thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and look forward to the next Zoom update. Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Trying to sleep again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Without dreams of Iniko.
Thank you.
Yeah. Keep
Thank
me
you.
awake at night too.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's hope for rain.
Yes.
Lots of rain.
Yes, lots of rain.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone.
Great job, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.